spreading the word is the biggest thing. It's just spreading the word that there is hope and we are going to get through this. And it's not, you're not convincing somebody to be a Republican if you're a Democrat or vice versa. You're convincing someone, hey, we're in a race against time of historical proportions. I believe it's the best time in history to be alive because we're going to look back and say, we're the generation, we are the ones that saved the country. You save us. Like Reagan said, if the lights go out here, they go out everywhere. The whole world is watching right now. You cannot let 2020 go by without learning everything you can from that and fixing it.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I've got a real treat for you, especially if you're an entrepreneur, and twice as much if you like pillows. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Lindell. What's happening, Mike?
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Dude, thanks for coming in, man. I know you're busy as hell running around the country. You got multiple businesses. Yep. You're definitely an entrepreneur. You have a book that's called What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. I want to get deeper into that. Mm-hmm. Your website, michaeljlindell.com, social media at Michael J. Lindell. Folks, go give him a follow if you don't already know who the dude is. The dude made a shit ton of dough in, pillows, basically. I want to figure out, like, where'd that come from? And what do you mean crack addict to CEO?
Well, I was a very functioning addict for 20 years. And it
crack?
That was other stuff. And then it turned into crack in the early 2000s. And in 2004, I invented MyPillow. It took about, I was always an entrepreneur. I had, my sister flooded a 3rd-story building once with a waterbed back in the 80s. So I became a carpet cleaner, right? And, I had a lunch wagon business, but then I had bars and restaurants, which were in a real good place for an addict. A bar I had for 13 years. But when I sold that, I was devastated at the time. But then I had a dream of inventing this pillow, and I always get these God dreams, and I knew it was a divine dream. But I spent 10 months, actually over a year, inventing this pillow. And then I got it all invented, and one of my sons, foam's flying around the neighborhood. We're trying all different things to go in a pillow, and then I go get the patent on this pillow, and I go to the box stores, and I was turned down everywhere. Kind of like where I'm at right now, by the way.
Yeah, well, but you were on crack.
Yeah,
it's funny that you say that because one time in my life, I was living somewhere where I accidentally got hooked on crack for about 2 days, mm-hmm. and then, shot back home to get away from it, and obviously never did it since. But dude, that shit can get you.
Yeah.
I thought you were joking. You actually smoked it too.
No, they for years, for a decade, and they it was amazing because to be on that horrific of a drug. I mean, they didn't make a thing back then. What are you on? Marijuana? It was, what are you on? Crack? I mean, that was a joke they even made out of because it was so devastating. And
did anybody know you were on it?
Yeah. Like I say, I had bars for the 20 years, but I was on cocaine then, different drug, by the way. And then when I got into crack, you had your circle crack addicts that knew, but I guess, how much you can fool. They knew that there was a deviation and change of behavior, but a lot of people, they don't understand, why or what,
Did you have any money?
Yeah, well, like I say, I invented MyPillow in 2004. Now I quit crack and everything in January 16, 2009, by the grace of God. So those 5 years, I almost had 2 parallel tracks. I had this crack addict, functioning crack addict, which if you're a crack addict, you're going, no way did that happen. Crack addict can't even believe that. And then over here, I would keep my word at the pillow show. Obviously, I wouldn't be smoking crack at a home show or a fair because that's where I ended up. And it was almost, I look back now, and it's one of the things that God preserved for me was my word. If I gave you my word, even when I was on crack, most of the time I would keep it. For sure, once I got off it, the thing about crack is you can make promises, you believe it at the time, 100%, you pass a lie detector test, but once you take a hit of crack, it's over. That becomes the total focus until you come down, and So it was addiction's a lot of work. I don't care what they add, what the addiction is. It's massive work. It's to hide it, to get it, to all. It's it's horrible. And one of the things that addiction does, it's a mask for pain or for false courage. And for me, it was this fear of rejection. I couldn't talk to two people in the same room. I was, and then back when I'd always have cocaine, but then when it switched to crack, the paranoias were just overwhelming. And now, but as long as you brought it up, I do have my Lindell recoverynetwork.org is free. I set it up, cost millions of dollars to set up online. It's free. You can go there if you're an addict and get online help. I believe it's the best online help because it's addicts helping addicts. What a concept. I want to hear from someone that's been there. Yeah. That's my hope match, right?
Well, you look great. I mean, you would think if you spent years being a crackhead, you'd be all tore up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, God bless me. When I did quit that night on January 16, 2009, I kind of woke up the next day and go, what did I miss those years? And I go, wow, I don't look too much physical damage, right?
How much did you spend?
Oh, I would spend, I don't know. All my addictions, I was also a compulsive gambler. I mean, different addictions throughout my life. I always owed the mafia money for football bets. But if you swing one addiction to the other, I suppose $250,000 a year, maybe more, But I was also a professional card counter. So that would subsidize losses. I mean, it was like I say, a lot of work. And people see the stuff I'm going through now. I'm going, man, back then was work. I feel now as I'm blessed every day that I'm still alive, and it's a whole different world.
Well, I had no idea that was the case. So they do a pretty good job keeping that. And not bringing that shit up.
Well, no, it got out there. I mean, I put it straight out there back. I wasn't shy about it. When I came out on, TV, I'd tell it straight out. I would tell, stories at churches on TV. It didn't matter. That's why the media never could attack me for that, because I told it all. That's why the media, they can attack me, and they do every day from morning till night. But I thanked them the other way. I said, God bless you all. You helped get the word out for me, even though you attacked me. At least they're doing something, unlike other TV channels that don't, that go, I call it going Fox on someone. Don't go Fox on me now. But I think, and when you have, I was just very, very open about it. And it's funny because you say that I would always tell my friends back when bars would close and we'd be doing cocaine or drinking or whatever. And I would sit there and tell them about, hey, you guys, I was reading the Bible when I was in jail and I'd witness to them and stuff. And they'd quit. I go, we got to quit this stuff. And they'd quit that night and find the Lord. And I'd be going, my other friends are going, will you quit doing that? We're losing friends. And I would always try to convince myself to quit, and everything. And they, there's so many functionality. I think people perceive addicts as someone on the street, homeless, whatever. But I've been everywhere in between, from no forks to four forks and everywhere in between. And people, there's addiction. I don't care who you are. It's huge. And and I think, people, when I came out publicly and said, I'm a crack addict. I remember doing a thing in 2014. It's in my book. I'm friends with Stephen Baldwin, the actor, and Stephen and I had just met him for a few months, and we were going into this event in 15. I guess we had became fast friends, and we were going to this event in the spring of 2015, and it was there's going to be like the TSA and federal marshals, the CIA, FBI. It's like a federation of like an event, this thing. And he says, now, Mike, whatever you do, just say you had addiction issues. Don't say you were a crack addict, right? And of course, I get in there and we're all at this big table, and this one gal says she was with Homeland Security, and she says, say, I read some, now you got to realize I'd quit 6 years earlier. And she goes, I read somewhere that you were a crack cocaine addict. And Stephen looks over at me like, oh, go ahead. So I start telling this story about, I said, yeah, I got a good story for you. You're with Homeland Security. I said, I was driving across Wisconsin. I only had a driver's license in 49 states, not in my home state of Minnesota. And I said, I had all this cocaine in my truck and that I was doing. But I was hauling pillows and they looked like a big bomb, these white pillows strapped down in this little pickup I had. And so I'm telling these guys this story. And I said, I kept seeing this helicopter above me. And I said, and then there's no traffic in a 4-lane highway over there. And I knew something was up. And sure enough, I get over the hill and Homeland Security pulls me over. The helicopter lands and someone had turned in the pillows because they looked like a big bomb going down the road. And of course, I had a license in that state. Well, the guy goes from Homeland Security. He's like third in command or whatever. He goes, well, what'd you do with the cocaine? I said, I seen the movie. I did it all, before I got over the hill. And, but I was very, I just put it out there. It's very transparent then. And it's helped a lot of people because a lot of people, I get it all the time where people say, they'll come up to me. I don't care who they are. They could be a big CEO of a company or some big politician. They'll come up to me and go, I had the same thing you did. I had addiction issues. And they're like whispering it, but they feel good that they could tell someone that's very vocal about it. Yeah. I can't help my past. I can only use it to change help change and help other people, that story. And so it's, my friends all see me on TV back in 2017 when I was first invited in the White House and I didn't know anything about politics. I'm an ex-crack guy. I never voted or anything. And here, I'd met Donald Trump in the summer of 2016, divine appointment. He invited me to in his office. It was just him and I. Well, anyway, I went all in after that. And he invites me to the White House for a manufacturer and entrepreneur thing at the White House. There was like 12 of us there. And I'm sitting by him and we go live on national TV, both of us. You can look it up on the internet. All my friends at home that are, ex-addicts and stuff themselves going, what is this ex-crack addict sitting next to the president? Jesus is real because there's no way this is impossible, because I always tell these guys, hey, we got big callings, and put it behind me. But in fact, I used it in one of my first speeches. I was so afraid of talking in front of people, and that was one of my phobias, right? And here I did a speech, and it was for a rally, a political rally, one of the Donald Trump's rallies in Minnesota. And the first one I ever did, there was 30,000 people. And I walked in there and I went just like this because I had to break the ice. I said, so yesterday I was on the radio and I could hear the guy introducing me as a former Democrat and a founder of MyPillow. And I said, I got right on there and corrected him. I didn't find MyPillow. I invented MyPillow. And I was not a former Democrat. I was a former crack addict. And everyone went crazy. It's like, I go, no, really, I was. I couldn't convince the crowd. I go, no, I was. It's like, you wouldn't even say that if you were.
Well, it's funny because not many people would say it. I've said it. Matter of fact, I was at a keynote this weekend in Miami. And I'm at this VIP dinner. Right. And they're doing a little Q&A. And some dude who's heard every episode of Dropping Bombs, and I only talked about it once or maybe twice at the most, now 3 times, says, Brad, tell us the story when you did crack. and a couple people were there. Other speakers were up on the panel, and they all looked at me like they thought it was a joke. So most of them were laughing like they thought it was a joke. And I said, well, what had happened was, and I told the story, and everyone couldn't believe it. Right. And they said, dude, later on, why would you do that? And I say, well, because that's the past, first of all. Mm-hmm. Second of all, if someone doesn't like me because I accidentally made some mistakes, right? Well, then those people shouldn't be around.
That's right.
That's rare. That shows that you don't bullshit.
No, I don't. And that's why the media has problems with me, and they have from the beginning. When I went, I go out for some, when I was on TV, I threw out a pitch for the Minnesota Twins, and they did like a baseball card for me, and it said at that time 1,500 employees, been on TV 3.2 million times. I didn't even believe the card. This was in 2016. So I looked it up, and actually they were a little low. So I was so instilled in the public of who I was, being on TV with all them ads and stuff. And then, so when the media comes out and attacked me for multiple things, one, trying to help the country and trying to, have a fair election, our future of our country at stake. But all these attacks, the media, it's like they didn't know what to do because they can't attack me going backwards. I've told it all. When you open up your statement with, I was a crack addict, what else am I going to lie about? I'm not going to lie. I'm going to tell you like it is. I don't lie. I don't have to lie. When I went on Jimmy Kimmel, I went on Jimmy last spring, and everyone said, don't go on there. This was going to be their last little dagger they put in me. And Mike Lindell's gone now. We got rid of his company. We attacked him. We did all these things. But this was the last. He had all these questions set up to attack me. And so Jimmy, I found out he had read my book. And I wanted to get the message out to everyone. This isn't a political Democrat or Republican thing. I want a fair election, or our country's gone forever. I don't care what side you're on that. Anyway, I go on to Jimmy Kimmel, and I found out he read my book. So I get out there, and it was an 18-minute interview of attacks, but I went through it great, and they at halfway through, Jimmy says to me, I said, Jimmy, what, we have to unite this country. I said, I'm not lying about this. You read my book. I just tell it like it is. And he goes, and I said, they attacked you last summer for doing blackface in the 90s. You can't help your past. And he goes, here's what he said. He goes, well, Mike, I did something bad. All you've done is back a man you believe in. And I said, so he kind of had some compassion there. And anyway, the 18-minute interview went down, and he just got slammed of his people going, why did you let him on? Because it made it look good. It got the word out of what I was trying to get out. And I tell people all the time, it's easier for me to go on interviews. I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's CNN, Fox, MS. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're attacking me, because my answers don't change. If you tell the truth, you don't have to sit and have a script. What did I say last time? What did I do here? It is what it is. And that makes it so easy.
Yes, it does. Dude, it sounds like me and you are aligned on that. So back in 2004, you said you had a divine dream where God told you about the pillows. Yep. What did that look like?
Well,
first, were you broke? Were you already loaded? Did you have some money?
Yeah. Well, here's, like I say, I'd always been an entrepreneur. The first job I ever had was a drive-in movie theater and a grocery store. And the grocery store owner fired me like 4 times because I would always tell him how he should run his business. He says, if you don't like it, get your own business someday. And one of the things I didn't like, and this is even with MyPillow now, is I had a friend of mine that had died, and you couldn't go to the funeral because it wouldn't let you up because he wasn't a family member. And so now at like MyPillow, we have, if someone dies you're close to, we don't question who it is. It could be a neighbor, it could be someone that whatever. We don't question it. And you get to take off to grieve as long as you want, and you're paid while you're out, and nobody's ever abused it, and things like that I didn't like. And but I always was an entrepreneur, problem solution, and I never had any money. I would start something on a shoestring and work my way up and then sell it or whatever. It was something would come along and nothing would lead to something else. When I sold my bar, instead, the one I had for 13 years, I didn't want to sell it. And I had fought for a law change in Minnesota, and I put everything I had on the line, and I lost everything. That bar went from worth $1 million down to about $300,000 in one day because I basically fought City Hall and fought the state of Minnesota for law changes. Now, so everything I built up for 15 years, but I stood my ground and I lost it all. So when I started the pillow company a year and a half later, I had no money. I had zero money. I had maybe $20,000, $30,000 that I had borrowed to keep doing prototypes and stuff. But I look back now, I want to tell any entrepreneur out there, at that bar at the time, I was devastated. And I look back now, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here where I'm at. So things that happen are pegs in life that happen. Some of them are so meant to be where this is all, it was a divine thing. I look back now. And by the way, what I fought for came true 4 years later. Everything had changed. All these laws in Minnesota involving it was a gambling thing. It was involved the gambling the bars had and the casinos and stuff. And it saved the bar and the restaurant industry in Minnesota at the time by them changing those laws. But the seeds were planted when I fought for those law changes, and I lost everything. But 5 bar owners called me and restaurant owners called me and said, "We want to thank you. We know you lost everything, but we want to call and thank you." And I said I would do it again. At that time, I didn't have anything, but I would do it again because it was the right thing. It was my moral compass. This is the right thing to do. If no one ever did it, they would all lose, And I didn't know what the outcome was be when I did it, but I can look back knowing I lost everything. This is before I had MyPillow, or I guess it's just started with MyPillow. And at the time with MyPillow, so when I finally had it invented, I didn't have any money. I didn't have a dime. And I borrowed money to do a kiosk. I tried to sell them, and I was turned down at all the box stores, but I wouldn't give up because it was such a problem solution thing with sleep. And pillows are always about height, not about firm. Everybody wants a soft pillow, but they want it to stay up and not go flat. So you're using your arm or flip flopping like a guppy. So it got to this point where no box stores would take me. Then I said, "Mike, why don't you do a kiosk?" I said, "How do you spell that?" I didn't know what a kiosk was. Well, we did the kiosk, and I couldn't talk to people because I had this, I wasn't on drugs then, I couldn't be on drugs. I was on drugs then, but I couldn't be on drugs while I was doing the kiosk, right? I was like two different mics, right? And but I'd be so out of my skin because I couldn't interact with people. Even when I had my bars, if someone would come in and one of my friends or nobody was in the bar, just me and I'm bartending, if someone came in there from out of town and I didn't know who he was, I would wait on him and say, "Let me know if you need anything else." If I wasn't high or drunk, I'd be over wiping a bottle. I'd go, please leave," because I always thought I didn't like small talk, right? But here I find out it was fear of being rejected. You don't get rejected if you don't talk to people. It's this inner fear, and
a lot of people have that.
Yeah, a lot of people do. And in fact, when I did my first infomercial, after I was freed from the desire. The first infomercial we did in August of 2011, and we went in to do our reads, and I had done shows. Now, remember, I was 2 years off of drugs by then, and went in to do our reads. And with this infomercial, I had a dream of a real audience and everything just being like I did at the home shows. And here, we went to do our reads, and when the guy from Hollywood, this producer he texts the other guy, said, "This is the worst guy I've ever seen. He'll never make it on TV." And he was kind of right. The next day I walked out and the audience is there. And it took me an hour to do one line. And I said, "Can we do it the way I did it at the shows and fairs? Just bring a table in and take away the teleprompter." And that's what they had to do. And it aired October 7, 2011, in the middle of the night. I was living in my sister's basement with nothing left in the world again, other than that infomercial, and it exploded. I went from 10 employees to 540 days.
Damn.
And then I'll tell everyone, because I tell this story now. Over the next 6 months, they go, "Well, Mike, you need an HR department." I said, "That sounds horrible." "You need a corporate attorney." I said, "That sounds even worse." "You need to be CEO." I go, well, don't they just take money? I had no clue, right? But we grew so big so fast, and we took in $100 million over 6 months. And you've heard the saying, you can grow too fast. Well,
all from the commercial.
Yep, all from the infomercial. The half-hour infomercial. This 1 and 2 minute commercials are different than infomercials are a half hour. Well, when that 6 months later, I woke up one day and I'm $6 million in debt. I never used a bank in my life. I didn't have money. The bank wouldn't borrow me money. And so I'm on my knees praying, going, "God, what did I do wrong?" And I tell people this story right now. I just told it yesterday at a rally. I said, if 2012, I spent the next 2 years digging out from that, being $6 million in debt, but I learned so much from the betrayal, from people that took advantage of me. When my handshake is my word, and the contracts, non-contracts, all these things that happened that I was naive to, but I learned so much from 2012. If 2012 had not happened, I wouldn't be here right now. 75 million MyPillows later, 2,700 employees. 2012 had to happen because I had to learn from all that, And I think too many entrepreneurs nowadays, they have a failure and they're just devastated. But your failures, I call it deviations, if you don't look at those deviations and learn from them, that's your number one thing you need to do. And I say that now, and I'll get a little political. I said I tell everyone the 2020 election in the United States will go down as the most important election in history because we're going to learn so much from it. What happened? What went down? When
will we learn?
Yeah, well, we're learning now.
When will the public know, though?
No, well, the public has already seen where the crooked. You've seen platforms like Twitter, Facebook that they've showed their true colors. You've had media show their true colors. It's exposed a lot of evil, a lot of bad people, and the evidence is all out there. We've had it for over a year, but they don't want to put it out there. So now we're going by way of courts, and it's all going to get exposed. But one of the things when we get through all this, we're going to have a solid platform, a new foundation. Maybe we'll get God back in our schools. What a concept, And so what I'm saying is that there's going to be the 2020 election. It'll be like starting over with of all the different things the two parties. I complain more about or say more bad things about the Republicans than the Democrats. The Republicans, they've been the big cover up where they don't, all of a sudden you bring up, hey, these computers, these machines, we have all these problems with computers and this and then they'll sit there and won't do anything about it, and it's sad, and the same way with media, conservative media that went completely silent on us, like Fox, Newsmax, Salem Radio. They all sell my product. I want to tell you something about that. I'm going to ask all your listeners, what's worse when something happens to me like Twitter? They just took me off Twitter again yesterday. It made international news. What's worse when all these people sell my products? All these conservatives, so it doesn't matter if it's CNN, Fox, whatever, they all sell my product. Almost everyone in the country over on the media for years, okay? So it's their number one selling stuff. We have over 200 products. Now, something happens. Mike Lindell lost 4 more retailers today. This cancel culture. So I'm the host now. They're over there going, and cancel culture, Mike Lindell lost this. Well, they're not having me on their shows to say why I lost it, right? So if you're not having me on to tell me why, you're canceling my voice. And I'll tell you what, I trade all my money, and I'm doing it to get my voice out there, because the money, you can replace money like in a cyber war or the world we're in today. When you talk about computers, every day computers get hacked. My business gets hacked. You got credit card hacks. You got pipelines. You name it. People go, wow, yeah, that's the world we're in, computer hacks. But when they do that, it's who has the better geeks. You got these IT geeks, these cyber guys. Okay, MyPillow got hacked we lost $1 million here. Well, they find out who did it, how they did it, patch the hole, make the security better, and it starts this cycle over again. But it's just money. Then it's just money. But when it happens in an election, you lose your whole country. And I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, or who you are. If you lose your elections, now you're a Venezuela. Now you're in Australia. Now you're going to be Canada. Now you're going to be Brazil, scared to death. These countries, I have friends with a lot of the president and the vice presidents and so on. You get to Philippines, Brazil, all these places that are afraid in the next election that they're going to, they have machines too. They have all the computers. This is the world we're in right now, and you can't have them anymore. You have to get rid of them. Sometimes the best thing things are made by hand, like MyPillow. There's no better technology. Most of it's by hand. You can't do it another way. You can't. Maybe somebody out there going, okay, well, we can replace it with a robot, blah, blah, blah. You still have to think, and so that's where I'm at. And by learning, I'll tell it, when you go back to the deviations, like even the selection, and back then I took everything I had that would happen as an entrepreneur as a deviation, and I would learn from it and make, adjust from it. And that was hard to do as a functioning addict. Yeah. That was, you had to keep things separate but to answer your original question, no, I didn't have a dime.
Okay. So yeah, let me go back to that. So you didn't have a dime. You invented the pillow, and it sounds like you didn't do the infomercial till 7 years later.
Yeah, so and here's what happened. So here's what happened, everybody, is when you're an entrepreneur, so I tried all the, I was turned down everywhere. I did that kiosk, and I did it for like 40 days, borrowed money from an ex-bookie for Christmas presents that year. I had 4 little kids, and married at the time, and she did most hours in that kiosk because I was out of my skin talking to people. I couldn't talk to people. Well, one of those days, a guy came and bought a pillow. I was all excited, and he goes, "You have a business card?" I go, "Oh, no, I'm all out." I didn't have business cards. I wrote my name on a piece of paper. So that one day I'm there. Then it gets to be January after Christmas. I'm going, okay, the kiosk failed. We lost another 15, 20 grand. I owe somebody now. And all of a sudden, the guy called me up, and he said, "Are you the guy that invented this pillow here in Minnesota?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "It's changed my life." He says, "I run the Minneapolis Home and Garden Show. Would you like a spot in here? I save it for unique products." And I said, "Sure." And I went in there and I changed my setup. I put a table in front of me so I could, kind of a shield from the public, right? So I could talk and be myself. And I changed my advertising, and I just said, family owned and operated. I just wanted people to know this wasn't just some big company, that it was something that I had done and invented. Anyway, that day I sold 14 pillows. So we can take the whole kiosk in 35 or 45 days. They bought 13 or 14 pillows. But the unique thing, the next day, all of them, not just some, all of them, it's never happened before or since, came back into that show, paid $10 to get back in that home and garden show, to come up and tell me that the pillow had helped them. And I felt so good inside that it was just amazing. It wasn't about the money. It was about, I'm going, really, I'm almost surprised going, whoa, it was like overwhelming to me. That's like, it felt so good. And I think that's where it kind of got hooked on doing pillow shows. I did home shows and fairs then, because then I had a niche across the country.
But you still weren't making dough.
No. We would make. It got after I quit in. A lot of betrayal. I lost a 20-year marriage in 2007 because on a parallel track you had crack going, and we got into 2008, and MyPillow was just like a heart monitor, just a little blip to do.
Is that all you had going?
Yeah. And there was the shows, and I probably did maybe 4 shows. I had in 2008 a lot of betrayal. I had one quick story there. It's in my book. Is in February of 2008 or yes, late February, I was downtown Minneapolis, right where they had everything burned up now a couple of years ago, and I'm down there, and I was hiding out because I had a warrant out for my arrest, on which I would eventually be found innocent of, but I had to hide out till the court date. And I'm down there, and I had been up for 14 days with no sleep. And
crack smoking
crack. And what I would do is I would tend to, if I had things going bad, I would tend to try and stay up until I solved the problem, which was usually a bad idea. Well, here we get, I come out of the room, and there's 3 of my drug dealers. They knew of each other. They had never met. 3 of the biggest dealers in Minneapolis in that section. They kind of had zones divided up. And I said, "What, do you guys know each other?" They go, and the guy just interrupts. He goes, "We're cutting you off." He says, "You've been up for 14 days. And I'm arguing, "No, it's only been 11, and the guy go, "What is this, an intervention?" They go, "Call it whatever you want, Mike." Now, 2 of them left, and the last guy, it wasn't even his apartment. He sent the other guy away. It was his apartment. And he's the one that kind of called this intervention. He's sitting in the chair and he finally goes to sleep. And it's about 2 a.m. I'm out of crack. I'm carpet farming. If you're a crack addict, you know what that, I'm on the floor, carpet farming and I'm scraping my pipe and no, that's a peanut. I mean, it was just horrible. Well,
one time I smoked a piece of glazed donut.
Yeah, exactly. So but I look over and he's asleep. So I head down to the streets of Minneapolis, and I couldn't buy crack anywhere. And in any city in this country, you can get crack in the middle of the night. It's like moving. It's like a whole nother world. And I couldn't. And addicts are very resourceful. And believe me, I was going to get crack. Right? I kept going out further. I go, man, they got the word out. The guy goes, look at me. He goes, man, I ain't getting nothing. You're not getting nothing from me. And these are, people that would take a sale. They wouldn't even scam me. Well, here I'd got the one guy I found out later had gotten the word out. If you sell this guy some, we're going to kill you, Wow. And I got back upstairs after an hour and a half. And I remember walking upstairs and he's up now, the other dealer. And he says, Ty says, what, how'd that work out for you? And here's his words. He said to me, he took a picture. He says, you're going to need that for that book you've been telling us you're going to write someday. But he goes, man, he says, you've been telling us for years, this MyPillow thing is just a platform for God. And you're going to come back someday after you quit and help us get us out of this addiction world we're living in. And we're not going to let you die on us. So I was their hope. I would preach to them just like I had my friends back in the day, in the bar days. And incidentally, 2 of them work for me now. They're born again Christians. They work for MyPillow. It changed their lives forever. But they wanted to protect to us like I was their hope because I would always tell them that stuff. Yeah. And but I didn't quit that day. And then I went through 2008. A few things happened in 2008. My son came back from a hunting trip. He was 18, and his lips were quivering in the driveway, and he's got tears in his eye. And I was living by himself. The second house I had lost that year, and the last that I had, I bought a contract for deed. I was always really resourceful, like I say, with no money buying stuff. And anyway, we were down to I thought I was fooling him. He was living with me, and he had this tear in his eye and his lips quivering. He goes, Dad, we just got back from the hunting trip. He says, I want to go live with Charlie, and I just broke my heart inside. I'm going, well, that's fine, and as I'm bawling inside. But that needed to happen for me. That was one of the things. And then the next thing that happened a couple months later, now I had very few possessions left. In fact, I was losing this house. I had 2 weeks to get out, and I'm staring at the ceiling, and here comes my buddy, and I call him my hope match in my Lindell recovery network. We set up these like hope matches. Well, he comes walking in, and now he was my equal in every way. We were both about the same age, both started cocaine in the early 80s, switched to crack in the early 2000s. He had been a functioning addict, but I heard he had found the Lord, and 3 years earlier, he had quit for good. We hadn't seen him. I didn't even know where he was. And he comes in like out of nowhere. I go, Dick, what are you doing here? He said, the Lord led me here. He said, what's going on? And I said, well, Dick, I got some questions for you. And the first question I asked him, I said, is it boring? And he said, no, man, it ain't boring. And I drilled him for 2 hours because I couldn't get enough of it because, man, it can be done. You can beat this, right? Before I'm thinking, this can't be beaten, I'm doomed, right? And it just consumed it for probably 3 hours asking questions. And I'd been in many treatment centers where, heck, I forgot more about addiction than the treatment guys would ever know. They come out of college to learn how to be a counselor, but they've never been through it. That's ridiculous, right? So anyway, a month later, on January 16, 2009, I knew one more day. People say, well, is that your bottom, Mike? Well, I made sure I didn't have any money left. That I would be, with God, all things are possible, this great comeback I had in my head, right? But I knew God had this big platform. We all have callings, but my sister kept saying, you have a huge calling. Guys, you have a big platform coming that's going to, she had all these things she would tell me and others. And anyway, I said, okay. And it sounded horrible to me. I'm I'm going, okay, God's got this big calling for me, and I'm not going to have my drugs or alcohol. I got this responsibility. I'd sit out there and I would actually procrastinate just on that alone. My sister would say, you know what, you got to quit standing in front of semis. God's got, he's going to pick someone else. And, I had 14 near-death experience. And if you read my book, it's just bizarre, right? And got guns to my head, knives to my throat, on a family trip to Mexico, they're going to cut my head off,
It's all in the book?
Yeah, it's all in the book.
Folks, get the book. What are the odds from crack addict to CEO? That's the title. What are the odds? You can probably get it anywhere.
Yeah, you can get, if you go to the App Store and go to frankspeech.com, you can get my audiobook. It's free. I'm getting everyone there for free, the audiobook. And if you buy any of my products, right now we're giving a book away free for the from MyPillow stuff.
Well, everybody likes a good pillow.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So man, I'll tell you what, dude, I could have you here for hours. I know you don't have much time, but when you launched the infomercial and the millions started pouring in, how'd that make you feel?
Yeah, well, when it happened, when I did the first infomercial, the first ad thing I did were print ads. I did a print ad, and I was told they were the worst ads ever by these other PR companies out of New York, but they were making money. It's what if I paid $1,000 for the ad, I was getting back like $3,000. And they were called remnant ads, and so they were filler ads, and I was everywhere in every newspaper, and it was such a good feeling. I felt this niche that it worked. Here's this geek holding a pillow, right? And I'm just being honest, telling the story that's going to help you, but these PR companies, this can't, these are the worst ads I've ever seen. I go, yeah, I really like branding. Now, one of the things I've never branded in my life, every time you see an ad, either breaks even or makes a little, because I couldn't afford to brand. I had to make it, like, if you're an entrepreneur out there, it's like, view everything like it's your own. What if I only had to live on one show or one podcast or one ad? I would want to make that the best I could make it, right? What if I only had one customer? I treat every customer like it's my only customer. I drove halfway across Wisconsin, 6 hours once to deliver a kid's pillow for his birthday. He was getting some, and it wasn't my problem that got lost in the shipping or whatever. And I heard from his mother the day before. She said, it still isn't here. And I said, well, I'm getting it there. And I, drove it there. But that's that. But when the first infomercial came out, I was like living in my sister's basement. It was October 7th, 2011, 3 a.m, and it was surreal. It came across the TV, and I hardly ever watch myself, but I did that night, and it was like, I just knew it was something divine, that it was really gonna do something. And like I say, I took in $100 million over 6 months, but I remember the first month, I just wanted to keep making pillows. And I remember going to an ATM machine, and I called up my friend and I go, Tom, you won't believe this. The ATMs don't go to the 7th digit. And he goes, Mike, I didn't know that. It was all this. I was scared because I knew we had over $1 million finally in the account, but it showed like 300 and some thousand. So I'm calling the bank, and they go, oh, the ATM, they do now, but they didn't then. They didn't go to the 7th digit. So I was missing some money. But it came pouring in, and I just, it felt so good. We grew so fast. We were employed, all my friends who employed, and they are still this day. And it was so rewarding. But then, like I say, 6 months later, I was devastated because I'd made all these mistakes, and now, and since that time, though, what I learned from that, any entrepreneur out there, I can tell you, like 500 of my employees have my direct phone number. And I could sit here now on your show and I don't have to worry, or I can do other stuff because I know they'll call if there's a block or a deviation. And what that means is it's when they don't call that I have to worry, and because if they didn't follow that rule. So like, let's say in corporate America, it's a weakness to show, oh yeah, you ask for help, and you ask for help, better not ask for help, right? Especially to the CEO. Well, I want to know, for me, it's kind of like the military. If you had a general and you had this platoon over here and go take this hill, and you get there and there's no hill, you better let that general know right away there's no hill. That's a deviation, because he's making decisions based on everything, right? So every day I get up now, if I don't get a call, I know I have peace that everything's running like a clock. It's just beautiful. And they'll call me. Anyone will call. Let's say it's an employee will call me up. It could be on one of the manufacturing lines and say, hey, Al here. I'll give an example. I had one, this guy, he was all of a sudden showing up late for work, and he'd never been late ever. And it's been going on for months. So I got calls and that he's showing up late. It's a deviation. Well, I find out he was walking his car was broke. He was walking 18 miles to work every day and back, getting up at 3 a.m. and he's ain't hitchhiking because they made it illegal years ago. And I said, well, I bought him a car. I bought him a car. I couldn't believe the dedication. And other employees are going, how come we don't get a car? I said, because you didn't walk 18 miles to work every day. We're fair, but the deviations could be, someone's, especially like an addiction, they'll call me and say, hey, there's weird behavior. This guy's doing this. And they know then that I'll call that employee and say, hey, what's the deal? I don't even know what drug he's on or alcohol, whatever it is. And he'll open up to me because they know at my company, we'll go get him help, pay for him while he's in treatment. We'll pay his wage still and get him help. And he doesn't have to worry that he's just going to get fired and let go, that we're a company of second chances. But it can be anything that's, and I'll look at deviations too, like, let's say it's a radio station where you normally do $1,000 and the ad costs $700, and all of a sudden it does $200. Or it does $5,000. That's a deviation from norm. And I look at numbers every day, hundreds of them. I can pick one out in about 3 seconds going, hey, why did this happen? You need a different input to bring a different output. That's the power of mathematics. Something had to change, especially when you deal with the numbers that I'm dealing with. And so we will find out, why did this station do better? Because his read was better? Or maybe there was something happened why it was low. So we find out why, and we'll dig into it. You could ask my company. We'll dig into it. I don't care. Everything will stop in the sand. You're going to find out why this happened. Okay, very similar to why I'm this stubborn with the election. There was the most biggest deviation in world history everywhere. And so when you find out and you get the deviation, now let's say it's bad. Well, you don't want to duplicate that. So you figure out why this deviation happened, and you make sure that it doesn't happen again, or you do the best you can. And if it's good, you want to duplicate that. So then you duplicate across all the platforms. And if you're blocked, that's another one. If you're blocked, I have, if one of my employees is blocked, I don't like sitting around an entrepreneur-led company. You don't sit and have a board meeting about, after you already get results, and, well, fourth quarter results are in. We spent too much money. We spent it wrong. We did this wrong. We react daily, hourly sometimes. So if you're blocked, we don't have time for you to sit there and try and unblock it yourself. I'll get a call saying, hey, this guy, just got one this morning. This company is taking on, it's a box store that didn't turn us down back in the day. And they just recently got with MyPillow, sold out. It's amazing. But we had a $1.20 increase because of cotton and foam. Everything's going up right now. So we had to pass that. That was right before I came here. We had to pass that cost on. And I don't like doing that, but we had to. There was no getting around it. Well, that company came back and said, sorry, our margin's not big enough. Now, my guy was blocked there. He didn't try and, he's one of my VPs, and he was one of my Cs, actually. That's beyond his thing. He can't call him back and say, I'm going to give you this. We're going to eat this, whatever. He had to call me directly because he's blocked now. Okay. So I had to make a decision, and I said, call him back and say, hey, this is where you guys are tight. We're tight. Why don't we just split it? That's the best we can do. Otherwise we got to walk away from it, which is, I don't want to do. But it was, but so if any entrepreneur, that's the best advice I can get, is make sure you understand, especially the deviations, because if you have something that's not normal, I don't care if it's one of your employees comes in and he's, there's something out of whack there, or if it's some vendor you deal with, you better find out what happened, because you have to have a different input to get a different output. It's like MyPillow sold so good all these years. I always had a thing. It always gave me a peace if something went wrong with a commercial or something happened. And this is early on too. I'm going, and I always had the thing, you know what? That person's going to wake up with the same problem with his pillows that he had, the night before. So sooner or later, they're going to get a MyPillow, right? It's kind of the same way with addiction. With addiction, you're going to wake up with the same problem. When you finally go to bed or you finally wake up, it's still there. So you need a different input to get that output. That's what my Lindell Recovery Network is. Getting them off drugs is just or their addiction is just a bonus. Getting them to Jesus is the real, the big win. And so that's what I go by.
Nice. Hey, so all the listeners, the Bomb Squad, if they want a pillow, you said earlier you'll hook them up.
Yeah, they can. If you use promo code Bomb Squad, you guys can save up to 60-some%. There's buy one get one free. There's everything on there, and this is their new platform, mystore.com, or you can go to mypillow.com. Use the promo code Bomb Squad at each platform there, and you get the best discounts in the country. There's no better discounts.
You heard that, Bomb Squad. Bomb Squad's the code, folks. Go get your pillows. And what makes these pillows so special?
It's a patented fill. Now, here's one thing people don't realize. Sleep isn't about hardness or softness. Everybody wants soft, but you want it to stay there. You have cervical nerves in your neck and vertebral arteries. They need to be held straight at night. That's why a lot of people, that's why down pillows are so bad for you. You'll end up using your arm, getting these sleep interruptions, folding over your pillow, stacking pillows. Everybody's been there. With MyPillow, you can adjust it. You adjust it to your height and it stays there. So you have the most, it actually solves the two things. And temperature is the other thing of sleep. You need height. You need to keep your neck straight. All your sleep is in your neck. Where you're keeping that straight. With sleep, your nervous system has to settle down. Let's say your nerves, whatever, that settles down. Then your blood slows. And then you'll go into sleep. And you'll go into REM sleep, then delta, and these sleep cycles back and forth. If you break those cycles, because you're spending time in bed, you need quality sleep. And that's what MyPillow does. It's amazing. And we have different size loft levels, but then you adjust it from there. So I'm looking at you got pretty big shoulders. We have different levels. You'd probably be our second or third level up. And there's a thing right there on MyPillow where you put in, ask you a few questions, and here's the right one for you. But you can adjust, and same way, if you're a back sleeper, side sleeper, or a stomach sleeper, you're not supposed to sleep on your stomach, but we have people that still do. And it's all about the thickness of that pillow. So you adjust it to that. If you go to your side, you need the most. It's the difference from your head to your bed. And there's a big science behind it. And it actually at one point, this is 20 years ago now, I had a guy come up to my booth and he goes, "Are you the guy that invented this pillow?" Because I have a 10-year warranty on it, right? And you can wash and dry it. And he goes, he was from a bedding company. And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "We tested this patented fill you have and it lasts 10 years. And he says, "You're never going to get a patent on this." He said, "They're going to shut it down and never," like the cars that got 200 miles a gallon. He said, "The pillow industry, the average person has 6 pillows per person per household and none of them work." So it's a massive thing. In 10 years, everybody buys like 30 pillows. He was telling me this and he said, you got these monster companies, they got monopolies out there. They all start with S, and he's telling me this stuff. And I said, well, but what he said made me want to go out and get a patent. So I went and got a patent. And I'll tell all the entrepreneurs out there, one thing with your patent, you might not have, and our laws are getting changed back to where it will help the entrepreneur. But I will tell you this, by getting a patent, you can always make, even if it's a provisional patent, you can always make your own product. See, with mine, the fear was that they would go behind it, get the patent and stop me from making them whatsoever, and them not making it too. Because they didn't want. You realize now I've taken the pillows taken out of our landfills because I've sold 75 million, and you take out if every person buys 30 in a 10-year period, and I've been around 20 years now. I mean, that's a lot of pillows that didn't get sold, that were garbage pillows to the public. So it's any entrepreneur. Those patents are very valuable that they can't stop you from making. And they somewhat will work where you can fight it. I know there's been great stories. where they fought at these big giants and you've won in court and got, where they've tried to copy you and steal your invention. That's why we have mystore.com for entrepreneurs. You got anybody out there that's got products that are ready to go, you can go to mystore.com, get your products signed up. It's like I created it like a mini Amazon where you don't get your products copied by China or Google or Zuckerberg's Facebook ads go out there and you get overcharged
or Amazon directly.
Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine that had an Amazon store, said Bezos copied his product.
Oh yeah, they copied it. They copy it, and it's usually copied in China. And Bezos, he don't care. Jeff puts right. He could care less about the entrepreneur.
So how much money do you think you were cost by supporting Mr. Donald J. Trump?
Well, when I first went all in on him, everybody. I didn't know anything about politics. I met him August 15, 2016, and I walked in there. It was just him and I, and he was all, here's a businessman. He asked me, he goes, Mike, you make your pillows here? He said, how's that working out? And I said, it's amazing. I love it. And he said, and I told him I was the next crackhead. They told me, don't tell him you were a crack addict. I said, I was a crack addict. And I kind of looked at him and I said, I have the Lindell Recovery Network that's going to help addicts. He goes, and I'm going to stop the drugs pouring in. So when I left there, I went and asked his employees. I said, is this for real? He said, yeah, he's a great boss. And he had no agenda other than to help our country. And he asked me for my opinion. I couldn't believe it. Well, I went all in. And when I went all in, remember, if everyone remembers back then, I was attacked. I just did a press release. I was the media's darling. I was their favorite. Mike Lindell's walking across the street. How many more employees you hiring? The American dream on steroids, right? Here's the next crack addict, and he's got 1,000 employees, and it's the media's darling. All of a sudden, they turned on me like a rabid dog. They're going.
Just because you like Trump.
And this is just because I had met him at that point. I did a press release saying I met him. Didn't even say what we talked about. They called me a racist. They called me just everything you could think of. Mike was a drug dealer. I never dealt a drug in my life. I tried to rid the state of Minnesota by drugs by doing them all, but they attacked me. And then the Better Business Bureau, the crooked Better Business Bureau came after me and for running my ads too long for specials to the people. And that was all political. They took my A+ to an F. And still an F, by the way, everybody. That's just fantastic, right? They attacked me. And that was in 2016 and into 17. But now, this last year, and the attacks kept up pretty level for all those years. Didn't get too bad. They knew I wasn't going to change, right? In fact, they go to boycott me. Boycott Mike Lindell and MyPillow. And then on Twitter, the bots and trolls would say, don't boycott him. He'll double his ads. We see enough of that jerk. Because I didn't care. I'm going to put it on. And whether it was CNN or Fox, I advertised on both. I didn't care. MyPillow was separate. Well, then along comes this election, and I go all in when these people brought me evidence that 100% shows this was a cyber attack through the machines. We got to get rid of them. China was involved. All these things. I'm not going to change on that. Got it on January 9th of 2021. And I would expect anyone to speak up. It's for our country.
What proof did you see?
We have all the cyber proof, 32 terabytes of proof.
So how come no one's going to jail?
Because of the media will not let it out there. They just attacked me. He doesn't have any evidence. Right now, you can go to Frank's speech.
I know, but why does it need to be on the media?
Well, right now, we're bringing it to the courts. We started an injunction. We just did one in Arizona. It's to get rid of the machines. We're going to South Dakota next. I want to go to every state. We're going to also beat them in the courts, but I want everyone out there to know I'm not stopping on any level. You asked me before, I got $35 million into this fight. That's on the proactive side. And that's not counting with all the retailers that left, which was $70 to $80 million worth of retailers canceled me out because of what? Because I was saying, hey, here's the evidence, guys.
How much do you think that cost you?
Of that money?
Well, how much money has it cost you because you said, hey, look, we got evidence?
Oh, right. Well, right away with the retailers, 80 million, 80 million in sales.
Do you regret it?
No, absolutely not. I'm still, to this day, I'm still fighting for it. I've got to get it out there. But I really believe, everybody, to give your audience some hope, over a year ago, Donald Trump put in over 400 judges, including 3 Supreme Court judges. Now, back then, no judges ever looked at any of this evidence other than one judge in Antrim County, Michigan. And you know what they found? 7,000 votes flipped out of 15,000 in that county. That got just suppressed by the media. They called the liars. They called, this was an anomaly. It was a human error. They lied. The media, they were in on it and they suppressed it. But the judges were living in fear. How would you like to be the first judge? I know I got attacked. My family got attacked. My cousins got attacked. I mean, you name it. I got attacked by every force known to man. And when I came public on January 9th with that evidence right after January 6th, you think about that. So I just kept putting it out there and getting attacked every day. But back then, but now it's changed, everybody. The evidence is out there everywhere. You have these movies that came out, the Dinesh 2000 meals, you have rigged, you have all these stuff, all the evidence that came out of Maricopa audit, Wisconsin, all these things are out there. But you know what? Who's not reporting it? Your mainstream media, which is Fox, Newsmax, Salem Media. They don't tell you stuff like they do. And you wonder what is going on here. That's why we're going to beat them in the courts. And these are going to happen real fast. The injunctions are emergency injunction to get rid of the machines before this 2022 election. Now, anyone says, come on, Mike, that won't happen. Look at what one brave judge did in Florida. All it took was one judge to say, hey, these masks on these airplanes are ridiculous. Let's get rid of this. And it changed overnight the history of our country. Boom, it's over. No one's ever going to go back to it. We fool us once, you ain't fooling us again, okay? And that's where we're at. And I will tell everyone, you can go right now to frankspeech.com, go to Bombshell Proof. You know what I did? In Mesa County, Colorado, we actually have what's inside the machines. Remember, these machine companies, they sued over 200 people when they talked about, hey, what's inside your machines? This was fraud, right? And they call it lawfare. It has not been done in our country since 1798, where you're threatened. If you talk about this, we're going to sue you. I remember I had to ask Dominion to sue me. I went public and said, sue me, Dominion, sue me. In fact, I'll sit right here on your thing. The biggest company in this country is ES&S. I was just in Nebraska. So I say, ES&S, sue me, bring it on. They won't. They're afraid of me because they know the evidence is posted up there. All it takes is, hey, our legislatures, you ask me why nothing's happened? Because of our Republican legislatures in our country. That's the biggest reason. All these states are Republican controlled and all of them are cowards or something. Why would you want, like if you're in Wisconsin, they did a 7-month investigation by this Supreme Court Justice Gableman, this ex-justice, that ordered by the House to go do this. 7 months. He comes back, he says, there's crime everywhere in through the machines. We need to decertify Wisconsin, which means bring down the electors. It doesn't mean they go to Donald Trump. It means they got big problems in Wisconsin. You know what? None of their legislatures did anything about it. Why did you have the guy do the report and the investigation? He's showing you what happened. Pennsylvania. Here, the best one is Pennsylvania, you guys. They had more vote. There's a law in Pennsylvania. You can't have more votes than voters. What? Are you kidding me? What a concept. You can't have more votes than voters or you can't turn in your electors. Pennsylvania turned in more votes than they had voters. I mean, it's a disgrace to our country. The legislatures there could decertify Pennsylvania tomorrow. And why don't they? Why? You need to find out why you had more votes than voters, and then you go down to Arizona, all the evidence they found there, and they lied in the media. Oh, yep, we counted the paper and there was Biden still won. 200,000 pieces of those paper were counterfeit, and they hid that from the report. They suppressed it. It wasn't paper that came from the election. They were ran off on a copier. It's a shame. I'll tell you one more thing for your audience. Our overseas military votes. Now, I've spent millions in different investigations. This one bothers me the most. I just found out this about 3 weeks or a month ago from whistleblowers. I met in the middle of the night now in 5 different states. These are commissioners that counted these overseas votes at the end of the election. And in 2008, Obama changed it where our military votes, you had 45 days. If you're in the military or your family, you have 45 days. You request a ballot. Your ballot gets mailed to you. You mail your ballot back. Sounds good, right? Well, in 2008 and 9, Obama changed it where you could do it by email. So now I'm going to follow the process. You're in the military. You request your ballot by email. It goes into the machine companies. This is on the federal level. The machines, computers, all of them in cahoots. So it goes into this database. Boom, you get sent emailed your ballot. There's no ID required, no nothing. You put in who you want and send it back, right? Sounds good. Well, the night of the election, all 5 of these states, when they usually count, they're called Awakawa ballots or whatever from overseas. When they normally count them, I'll give an example of one county in Alabama, just one county. They normally get 5 of them. They had 262 of them. When they ran them off on the night of the election, they hit the button on the computer. It prints them out, their ballots on copy paper. They looked at them and they were all for Biden, all 262. They looked at each other and the lady says, well, maybe they've gotten liberal, these men over there because, colleges nowadays. And he goes, no, this is bizarre. So they called other commissioners in Alabama that night. All of them were for Biden. Arizona, that audit, 8,600 of them were for Biden, just in Maricopa County. Another state, Colorado, another state, Alabama. Everywhere I've checked so far, every one of them that was emailed was for Biden. If you had a few that were done the regular way from our military with an actual physical ballot, which was like 1%, we were all for Trump. In other words, what they did with one click of the computer, they stole 890,000 military votes that all went for Biden in the presidential election. They get distributed to every county in the United States, and that's what they want. That system would flip 6 states, just those, to Donald Trump. 6 of the states, including my home state of Minnesota, and New Hampshire too. He won too, and then all 5 swing states. Well, that's what they wanted. Everyone says, come on, that they really do that? That's the system they want to put in for to federalize our whole elections. 2 states, one of them was Utah, had 3 counties there. They tested on municipal voting with emailing and texting your vote in.
Well, if that happens, then our elections are over.
It's over. If we still have machines, everybody, it's over. That's why we're fighting right now. If you can go, you learn all this on frankspeech.com too. The injunction was put up there in Arizona, and you have to, the plaintiffs are the people, but in Arizona, it's Carrie Lake. She's running for governor of Arizona, and Mark Fincham, who's running for Secretary of State. They put up this as plaintiffs, and the defendant is Katie Hobbs, which is this current Secretary of State. All the relief is, you guys, is to get rid of the machines and the computers, and we have the perfect replacement. The perfect replacement. We developed it over 7 months in Texas by guys that are a lot smarter than me, ex-military, and it's paper, but it's the most secure paper in the world, better than money. And then we've got a demo that up on Frank Speech. It's actually in the complaint. And where's the best security in the world with cameras and stuff? They're always five years ahead of everybody. I know this from my card counting days. Casinos. So we took casino technology. We went over to France. I talked to the France people. I did. Because they've been doing this. They outlawed computers in the 1970s. So they just had an election, all paper. And they had them all counted in one day. 1 day voting, 1 day counting, no problem. They even had a runoff, no problem. It's done. And they have 1/3 of the people, but they get it done.
You said?
France did. They outlawed computers in elections in the 1970s. So when you learn something, think of this as a business. If you're an entrepreneur and you're going into a business, you better learn by somebody that's already been there. So I went and took and found out, hey, people that didn't use computers, how's it working out? It's working out real good, everybody. We used to do it 30 years ago. It worked great. These computers are stealing. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican or who you are. They have to be gone in our country, period. Forever and ever and ever. That will save our country. I don't care what party you're in or what you're doing. If we still have them, it's goodbye. If you don't believe we skipped right over socialism to communism, I don't know where you're living, but what got put into office is not, I don't don't even consider that an administration. What everything they're doing is to destroy our country. You look at when the first thing you did, I'm a marketer. If I'd have been their marketer on Inauguration Day, I would have said, you guys, don't do anything stupid until they shut up about this election. But what did they do the first day? They opened up the borders to pour the fentanyl back into the United States and all the COVID and everything. Let's not give them shots, whatever. Just open it up, and they shut down the gas pipeline. 13 people committed suicide within a month. They were promised those jobs, 50,000 union jobs. But more important than what they wanted, they knew what that would manifest to. It's where we're sitting right now. The inflation that's coming is beyond anything anyone will ever see in history. But all the stuff that's going on right now, if those truckers in Canada, if they wouldn't have won that with Trudeau up there, they would have lost another 20% of our truckers. 80% of them were vaccinated. They would have lost another 20%, everybody. And if you don't know how important that is, for trucking fees and everything are through the roof. Everything gas affects is everything you use. So all this stuff right now that's going on, I pray every day that it keeps on going at least another 5 or 6 months, till the election. You know why? Because if they were smart, they would lower the gas price, because people have short memories. They do. They'd lower the gas prices. They cheat with the computers and then go, oh, well, it's okay. Look at, we just had to let what they're doing manifest in. But they're not. They're going for it. They don't care right now, everybody, because they've got a computer to hit a button. When Pelosi said, you know what, we're going to add to the House, you don't see them. Do you think if you have two opponents in an election year, they would both be doing things to try and, to brag about something? Hey, we got lower gas price. Our economy's good, whatever. They're not doing anything because they don't have to, because just like the last election. And I want everybody to realize this. The Democrats warned us of this. Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, in the movie Kill Chain, they warned us of this. You can't use machines. We can't use these computers. You have these for voting. They warned us in 17, 18, and even into 19. But it just so happened, it's like if you're on the winning side of a fixed football game, this is way more important than a fixed football game. Though you're on the winning side and they don't seem to care. But more importantly, or more sad, is that the Republicans don't seem to care. All these Republicans that could have done something to help our country. I've said it before and I'll say it now. If you're a Republican and you're in office and you're a legislator, even if you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter. You know this election, what went on with these machines, and you know they have to go. And you know what? History will be written when we get through all this, because it's going to be an amazing place of one nation under God again, because we are going to get through. We have all the pieces to get through this, but those people will be known as either a traitor or a hero. This time around, there's nothing in between. There is nothing in between. You're going to sit there down in Arizona, Wisconsin, and you know what came out in your state, and you're going to just try to wait out the clock to 2022, to that election day, and go, I'm not in politics anymore. Shame on you. On my platform, they're going to know your name. It's going to be a household name.
Yeah, and it should be.
Yep, absolutely.
I think the reason they do that is not because they're afraid. I think they get paid.
Mm-hmm. Oh, a lot of them do. A lot of them
are getting their pockets filled.
Yeah, they're getting their pocket full. They might feel that they got in because if there's right now and that's what I say earlier in this show of how much it's been revealed. This has all been on God's timing. And all this stuff had to be revealed. People are understanding politics now. You've kind of awoken everybody up. They understand what a Secretary of State does. They are so important, and they're all crooked. There might be a handful. I mean, I've never seen like it. You go down to Georgia, Brad Rasper, one of the biggest criminals this country's ever seen. He's a Republican Secretary of State. Then he's got a governor there, same way, Brian Kemp. And then you got the Triple Crown, Chris Carr, who's the Attorney General. They're all three Republicans, everybody. They're all three Republicans. And I don't call someone those things if I haven't investigated them. I'm not going to put out and call someone something, especially a criminal, if they're not. Criminal. I'll say it again. That's a fact. I've got the stuff, and they know I do. Just like Jack Dorsey on Twitter. When they took my Twitter down again, this wasn't Jack Dorsey still controls that right now. I said, you know what I told the media yesterday when they did that? I said, let's melt these machines down, turn them into prison bars, and put Jack Dorsey and the rest of them behind bars.
Are you worried about like black helicopters and people snuffing you out with?
I was, that's a good question. When I had, if you remember last year, when I brought evidence to the White House on January 15th, okay, over a year ago now. And I brought the evidence there, but also I had lawyers delivering these 2 pieces of paper. And on there, I've never read them since, but through a series of events, I was outside the back of the White House and it said martial law on them, declare martial law. This was 9 days after January 6th. So the media just attacked me. That's when all the attacks came. At that point, I had to go on TV every day. I got out of Minnesota and I said, you bad people, I'm not in Minnesota. Stay away from my family. And I did. I hid out. I would do media clips everywhere, hiding out, because I was the only one I felt that had the voice and the evidence. On January 7th, if everybody can put their heads back to January 7th, so significant in our country's history, because that's the day they tried to turn the lights out on us forever. 1.2 million Americans were deplatformed that day off Vimeo, YouTube, Suckerbucks, Facebook, Twitter. Deplatformed. Churches were deplatformed. If you spoke out about that election, you were deplatformed. If you spoke out against the vaccine, you were deplatformed. It wasn't just Donald Trump that got deplatformed. And 1.2 million people. I compare it to, it's like when Reagan said, the lights go out here, they go out everywhere. Now, I think back when I was a kid, there was black and white TVs. And as kids, we would turn them off and it would go down to this little tiny blue dot. And we'd see who could get the dot smaller and turn the TV back on and all come back to life, right? Well, that dot was so small you could barely see it. And think of that as our voice, okay? So God gave me this big platform with a big mouth, and he gave me the evidence. These guys brought me the evidence on January 9th, 32 terabytes of information. So I'm spreading the word, and did I have fear then? Yeah. The only time, you guys, that I actually, because I only fear the Lord, but I did at one time, it was before the impeachment trials, and it was about 10 days or 12 days before that, and I thought, and I had heard that they weren't going to allow evidence to be shown there of the election crime, and that I thought it'd be like the OJ trials. You could just pour the evidence in, right, and he wouldn't get impeached, and it would save our country. Well, then I heard from a source that they were going to impeach him, and you couldn't show evidence. So I'm going, what am I going to do? And I felt that in prayer it goes, do a movie, and that's what I did. Absolute Proof, and Absolute Proof came out on February 5th at 9 a.m. The media attacked me all the way up to that. When that came out, not one media outlet called me, and they all have my direct number.
Where can people see that?
They can see it at frankspeech.com. That movie was seen by 150 million people in 4 days. In 4 days, and they tried to suppress it. I couldn't even buy my own name on YouTube. I mean, I was canceled on YouTube. I mean, Google. You can buy AdWords there. Well, they won't even let me buy my own name or buy that name because it kept putting stuff in between so people couldn't watch the movie. They took over my Wikipedia, evil Wikipedia. They took over my Twitter account where they were acting like they were me. The attacks came that day, and that's when I said it was scary. I'm going, how deep does the evil go? And I took off, and but now that it's after I did the Cyber Symposium last August. Since then, it's like the word's out now. Now, if something happened to me, everyone's going to go. And I have a thing there. It's out there. People can go there and look at the evidence. It's not like if they killed me now, they go, yeah, he was right. You know what I mean? So it's almost like it's too late to close the gate. The cows are out of the barn. Everybody knows 35% of Democrats now in a poll say the election was stolen and through machines. 35%. That was Real Clear Politics did a poll about 2.5 weeks ago. So as more people know, and that's why I say judges are getting braver. I don't blame them. I've been through it. You read my book, What Are the Odds from Crack Addict to CEO? I've had guns to my head, swords to my throat. I've had mafia at my door to collect money on football bets. I've had where I'm feared for my life, where all the people out there that haven't been through this stuff, it's almost like God prepared me for such a time as this, because I don't care. I have the evidence. This is what God wants me doing. This is the platform to get the word out. And it's all about communication. When we get through this, you think of your own podcasts, and you think of all the podcasters now and all the different outlets, like we have frankspeech.com, where it's a media outlet, and you have all these outlets where people are going to get their news from other places now going forward.
How come they can't shut down Frank's speech?
Because I bought all my own servers. I put $10 million into getting my own servers. I got protection around that. They're called, starts with a P, another $5 million of just virus protection where they can't break in. And believe me, they've tried. They threw everything at it. I got some of the best cyber guys and IT guys in the world. I just said, this was last spring, about a year ago. I said, you know what? They're going to shut down my voice. Because as the media kept attacking me, that scared me. After absolute proof, when that came out, they just went silent on me, even the bad media. And if you're not getting attacked, if they just want to shut me out and not talk to me, I can't get the word out anymore. And so I just put all that into Frank's speech. We've got 4 million people there now, and it's communicating enough to and I also have like Cause of America. I'm in 46 states with grassroots, over almost 1 million people that are working hard on the ground in every state, canvassing and finding out the truth about this election, the biggest crime in the history of the world.
How do you think it's going to all play out?
I think it's going to be a couple things. I have to believe that the machines will be found out. I mean, they have to. They're gonna, they have lawsuits everywhere, court cases, and they're guilty. I mean, they're gonna be all found out. We need to have them gone before this 2022 election. We've got 60 some counties now out of 3,000 that are going to be machine free. If we get rid of enough of them, I think you can get, that we can have somewhat of a fair election, I want to say, but they're going to go for everything. Once you have that, I believe this will, you're going to have this great new platform or new foundation, where people are going to elect people that have the people's back, because we've seen what happened with both parties. You call it deep state, call it whatever you want. You can see now how Republicans were in on it with Democrats. Just call them this one party rule that was out there. It's disgusting. And we need to have common sense. We need to have politicians that have the people's back, but you absolutely have to set the standard for the world. If the United States goes down, if these machines are still here, it's over. We have to terminate the machines. It's like, remember the movie The Terminator? Well, I'll tell you what, that's not too far-fetched. When just a year ago, you guys, in Australia, which remember, they've taken Australia already. They did it with the voting machines. They took Australia. My friends were there. They couldn't go, when they went out to go that didn't want to get vaccinated, they'd only get let out to go to get groceries. And when they did, let's say they'd quarantine for 14 days. They could finally go get groceries. When they were out of that, they'd go get groceries. They'd get back to their house. Within 2 hours, you'd get a ding on your phone. It would say, you have been in an area where they was exposed to the virus, blah, blah, blah. So now they're re-quarantined. I had one friend who was quarantined for 9 months. When he left his perimeter, a drone would come down and say, go back to your house now. Go back you are outside of the zone. It didn't have little swords to shoot you, but that's pretty scary stuff. When a drone tells you to go back inside your thing, get your mask on, or go, or you can't even eat. And, they did this in Israel. That was another thing where, this all started with this China virus stuff, this garbage, that they set up that was all part of this. And in Israel, we actually, when Netanyahu, and they made a deal where I know this for a fact because we had therapeutics going in there that would have opened up Israel, would have opened up the U.S. I got attacked for that too. Anybody wants to look up Anderson Cooper, Mike Lindell. It was a 24-minute attack when these guys had brought me this therapeutic that worked. So I was going to ship it over to Israel. They stopped it there. Netanyahu made a deal with Pfizer. And all of a sudden in Israel, no therapeutics. They're on their 6th shot, everybody. You can't do anything in Israel unless you are vaccinated, okay? You couldn't work. You couldn't leave your house. And this is, this is what they went right for it. The evil goes, let's go right to Israel and set this up. And it's disgusting.
Why Israel?
I don't know. I would think, all the technology, I think a lot of it was because Israel, their hospitals there, when you hear about cures for cancer and stuff, a lot of that stuff comes out of Israel. They're some of the smartest minds in the world, and they have a hospital there that's unprecedented. So if you make a deal with the government saying there can't be any other therapeutics, and we want a monopoly there, you shut down any ideas coming out of Israel. That would be my theory. Now, here in the United States, we had a therapeutic that worked. Everything got shut down here. All of Fox News, Newsmax, everybody got paid off by Big Pharma for this vaccine. They got paid off to not talk down about it, and to actually do proactive ads to be, that they're, hey, it's good, and never talk about therapeutics or supplements that worked. Our government, when they had a thing, in order for the therapy or for the vaccine to be treated as an essential under the essential whatever drug category, there could be nothing else out there that worked. Okay, so anything that worked, they shut it down. The task force shut it down. I could sit there and do a 3-hour show on the horrific things I went through back then. I put $10 million into a therapeutic that worked. At least it saved a lot of my relatives and kept MyPillow going. We never shut down. We never got sick. And we did this. What was it? It was Oleandrin. It's a molecule it's called Seradivir. Then we were selling it as a homeopathic, which was fine. Well, then they shut that down. The FDA. It's horrific because Big Pharma pays them off. It makes you wonder how many cures for cancer are actually outside of the United States, and we stop it here because of money. Money. And I have a guy in my company. He was dying of cancer years ago. It's in my book, and this Jim, and he had 3 months to live, and he came to my house. He said, and I'm running the bathroom doing lines in between him telling me he's going to die. I said, you ain't going to die. I've seen it in a dream. You're going to be just fine. He said, no, they gave me 3 months to live. He had stomach cancer, and they kept carving it out, and he couldn't they couldn't get it all. And he said, no, I'm going to die. Well, make a long story short, he tried an experimental drug out of Mexico that could prolong his life 2 months. Well, they went under a microscope or whatever and checked it out. And after he went back, he wasn't getting any worse. And he went back and everything had accumulated. The cancer cells had all gotten together, kind of like mouse on cheese, right? And they said, hey, you got to quick get an operation. So he did the operation. They came up and said, we got it all. You're going to live for a full life, and my point being is that same thing. I go, why wouldn't they take that and put it everywhere in the country? Let everybody know about that. He was one of many cases, but he was able to get it, from Mexico to bring here and do it, but as part of an experiment. But the experiments go on forever. You follow me? Yeah. Let's keep going. We got another triple blind study. Donald Trump did the right to try. It's not a right to try if the doctors get threatened that they can't do it. You follow me? And you know how many doctors? I just spoke at a conference of Freedom Doctors. I spoke at that conference. You know how many have lost their doctor, can't be doctors. They've lost their license or been fired because they put out stuff like ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine to save a life. It's so sad in this country, but it's all getting exposed, and people, I believe me, if you look up patient on Google, it's not me, right? But I've had to learn go, okay, this is all in God's timing, but this is what I'm saying. When we get through this, the stuff that doesn't make sense of why would anybody want, what if it was their family? Do you think these people in the the CDC or whatever it is, and the FDA, you think these people, what if it was their family? I guarantee they probably had therapeutics in their drawer that worked. You know what I mean? What if it was them? Instead, everyone's treated like a number here and stuff doesn't work, or they don't care. They're getting off. You said it before, the politician. Are they getting kickbacks or money? Absolutely. So much greed. Do you know I can count on two hands of politicians, and I've met, believe me, everybody, hundreds, probably thousands of politicians. And since I was thrown into this in 2016, remember, I had never voted. I didn't know a filibuster from a millibuster. I didn't know a Democrat from a Republican. I didn't know a liberal from a conservative. I was a crack addict. I was an addict. Politics didn't affect me. I didn't care about it. Well, I'll tell you now, I know they affect everything we do. And I can see how election, what an election the can manifest to that was stalled by people that have another agenda, and it ain't a political agenda. It's an agenda to destroy us, to destroy each and every person on this country out of greed. But like I say before, I've met 10 politicians that are in power, including our great president, Donald Trump, our real president, that actually have no agenda other than to help our country and do things, make decisions that will problem solution, and what will it manifest to help people, all people. All people. But it's too many things where you have a common sense. Here's the common sense solution. And a party, well, you're a Democrat, so you have to vote like this. Or you're a Republican, you got to vote like this. If you take common sense out of it, you're never going to solve that problem. Oh, we're in power now, so it's got to be this way. Oh, we're in power, it's got to be this. It's disgusting. Or they have a personal agenda. That's almost as bad, because that personal agenda is usually greed and money. And it's corruption. It's so deep. You asked me before, do I fear them? We don't even know who them are because it runs so deep. Absolutely. But I've got, I don't fear them. I fear God, and I feel God's protection, but I have to just believe in that and just keep getting the word out. Our best offense, everybody, is getting the word out. Just keep getting the word out. And that's what we have to do. And that's why when I did that, frankspeech.com, I did that to get the word out. Now, in the old days, I don't know if everyone remembers, there was a commercial back in the day. It was a hair commercial, and they tell two friends. It was a shampoo, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and so on and so on. It was basically, word of mouth will spread the word, right? Well, then when social media came along and cable TV, when you get especially both of them actually, you can brainwash a whole country on whatever you're putting out there. Just like Nazi Germany, one of the best marketers ever was Goebbels. He convinced the whole country they were better than other people, and the ones that weren't convinced were out of fear, had to act like they were convinced. Okay, that was Nazi Germany. That's what they're trying to do here with our communications. You take away communication, you do that, and then you can put out propaganda all you want. If people are afraid to communicate, or they're in fear for their livelihood, not just livelihood, but for livelihood, or for to support their families if they're deplatformed or whatever. But now what happened though is this last year, this is the hope. We have podcasts have spread. Platforms like Truth Social, I have Frank Social, you have Frank Speech, you have Getter, you have Gab, you have all these different places now. And people are, it's gone back to, and they tell two friends, and they tell two friends, and so on and so on. The word spreads, and we have to keep spreading the word, because they can't hurt us if everybody's on the same page. And I'm not talking about arguing whether Republican Democrat thing. It's people. We as a people, we're not a racist country. We're not a divided country. That goes back to Obama telling us we're a racist country. And I'll say it like this: I don't care. That's the fact. Oh yeah, we're racist. No, we're not. That's you telling us we are. But all the people, just the people. At MyPillow, I have 2,700 employees. We have more blacks, Hispanics, Asian, whites. It doesn't matter who you are. We have Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. We've united in this as one family. We don't think about, gee, is Mike out there doing this? It's a political thing. They know, no, this is to save our country. This is to bring out the truth. And this is to, once again, be people. We all have God gave us, on this earth, it should be why we're here. We should be joyful, happy lives. Isn't that what everybody's goal is, why you're here? And then to get people. I believe we're in the greatest revival in history, actually, because people don't look for hope until things are going bad. And that's why I kind of hope they keep doing this until we get past it, the election, because, if we get, when you talk about elections, when I say elections, I'm saying to get a new place where we can go, where our freedoms aren't taken forever, because we were down to that little dot and it was going to be gone forever. But instead, it's going to be an amazing place we get to. And we're going to look back and we're going to say everything had to happen just the way it happened and on God's timing to get to that place. Because you think about a year ago, everybody, if they would have flipped it back to Donald Trump, we wouldn't have known about all the platforms that were evil, all the box stores that were evil. We wouldn't have known about, all the corruption with the machines, so all this is a good thing.
So out of all the bomb squad listening, what's one thing you could tell them to do if they care about the country?
If you care about the country, I would go to get to frankspeech.com, go to the App Store and get that, because we have a platform there to get the communication out. And anything you want to argue or get involved in is right there. If you want in your state, you want to get involved, right there, I have Cause of America. That's the platform I have. You can get involved right in your state. Cam's doing all kinds of stuff. You can also see the evidence. So if someone wants to argue it, they say there's no evidence. Say, it's right here. Spreading the word is the biggest thing. It's just spreading the word that there is hope. And we are going to get through this. And it's not, you're not convincing somebody to be a Republican if you're a Democrat or vice versa. You're convincing someone, hey, we're in a race against time of historical proportions. This is the most, it's actually, I believe it's the best time in history to be alive, because we're going to look back and say, we're the generation, we are the ones that saved the country. You save us. Like Reagan said, if the lights go out here, they go out everywhere. The whole world is watching right now. You cannot let 2020 go by without learning everything you can from that and fixing it, or our freedoms, the American dream, will be gone forever. And I've lived it more than anything. When you go from a crack addict to the platform I'm at right now, that can only be done by the grace of God, by God's grace. And we want to get to a place where, you pull out, where you put God back into the schools. So everybody is communication. And that's what we have to do. They can't let our voice take our voice. And we'll get through this, and we have all the pieces. It would be really sad if I was here and we had nothing. We didn't know anything, and we had, communication, but we didn't know anything. We had that, that this just came upon us. It was no input. All of a sudden we changed to a communist country and everything's going to go right down the tank. I think people are learning now, when they invaded our colleges, when China came into our colleges and this brainwashing for these professors and stuff, now people, even college students, are realizing, gee, socialism isn't just having a cup of coffee with your friend. It's a very serious thing that leads to communism, and we skipped right over it, and we're living it every day. Go look at the pump, and not just the gas pump. What's coming at us is horrific, but everybody embrace it, because this all has to happen to get us to that great place.
Folks, there you go, man. Hey, I appreciate you coming.
Oh,
I know you didn't have to. I know you got your own little freaking, wars going on in your businesses and everything. You got a lot going on. So I appreciate it. Folks, go follow Mr. Lindell, Michael J. Lindell, on social media. Go support him by getting a pillow, at least MyPillow.com. Don't forget Bomb Squad, get your big discount. And go get his book, What Are the Odds? From Crack Addict to CEO. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him. And I hope you come back so I can interview you one more time.
Yeah, absolutely, I will. And just so everybody knows, I get requests for interviews all the time, and I sit and I actually pray about which ones to go on or not. This was loud and clear. I think I gave it an answer like in 10 minutes. I'm going, this sounds good. It felt right. And I'm glad I came. And by the way, if you guys want my book today, if you use that promo code Bomb Squad, I'll send you a book for free, anything you buy today.
Damn. Folks, as always, keep it real.
Everybody's different, and especially now in these kind of rough political times, everything is very polarized. So everybody wants a black and white answer to things. And the fact is, everybody's different. Like, I don't know. I mean, for so many years, I thought to myself, man, when I have kids, definitely don't want them to go to college. I'd rather have them just go to work and real life. And now I'm thinking, well, it really depends on the kid. It really depends on the person, their circumstances.